Hey guys, Vertus here and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 4 survival horror game series, and in today's video we're going to be continuing on with our flashlight. Having said that, we're going to be going over how we can actually display the progress bar for the flashlight battery system onto our HUD. So if you haven't watched the previous video, I advise that you go ahead and check it out, and from there you'll see that we created a simple flashlight. It's got a battery level, and whenever we, toggle it on using the F key, you can see our battery level integer goes down when it gets to 0 and it turns it off. Also, if you haven't watched the Unreal Engine 4 beginner tutorial series, I also advise you check that out so you can easily follow along and understand everything that we are doing. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So if you haven't got the latest version of the heads up display for this horror game, I advise you go ahead and check it out in the download description below where you can download it. Inside of this new HUD, I've got a simple little progress bar for the flash battery. And all it's going to do is pretty much just fill between each stage. So you can see when the battery is full, it's going to have this colored look, and when it's empty, it's going to have this gray look. And it's just going to pretty much fill as the integer for our flash battery goes up and down. So let's go ahead and show you how we can start bringing this into the engine. So the first thing you need to do is you need to actually get this into its own little layer, and it's really simple to do. Just select it, press Ctrl C, and then create a new Photoshop layer, not layer but document, and then it should automatically get the width and the height. 161 by 62 seems to work for me, so just go with that. And then all you gotta do is just copy and paste it in, delete the background layer, and then save it out. So I've already done that bit, and I've got the two images in this one bit here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm essentially just going to quickly save this out as a PNG file. If you don't have Photoshop, I'm also going to be including these PNG files inside of the the HUD zip folder in the description. I'm just going to call this flash_empty for now. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the full battery, and I'm going to call this flash_full. Flash_full. And that's it. That's all we need to do in Photoshop. So we can go ahead and close that. And I'm not going to save that because I've already got it all saved. And we need to start bringing it into the engine now. So what I've got to do now then is I've actually got to just import it in. So I've got to find wherever I put all of my HUD stuff. So I'm going to quickly find that. It's probably textures. Okay, so it's not in my textures. Where did I put it? Third person blueprints. Okay, so I honestly can't remember where I put it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it straight into the third person BP folder for now. And all I've got to do to import it is I've got to either press the import button here, or you can just click and drag it. So I'm going to select both of these, just like that. And now that we've done that, we can actually put them into our widget. So if you remember, over the past few videos, we've been creating our HUD inside of the survival HUD widget. So if I double click and open it, you can see all the components that we've set up already. So you can see we've got our objective system, and we've got our hunger and our stamina bar. Now, the way this flash battery system is going to work is going to be pretty much exactly the same as our hunger and stamina. We're just going to be creating a progress bar, and then we're going to be setting up a simple binding to actually get the integer for our battery system. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the text that says flash battery, just like that. And I'm also going to change the color. So I'm just going to try and get it to be the same color as the text over here. Didn't work out too well. Let me just try that again. So I'm going to get the little color picker, and there you are. Okay, there we go. When we change the font, it should look a little bit better. So I'm also going to change that to the Feast of Flesh font that we're using. And okay, and I'm also going to scale this little box up a little bit more, just so that we can have bigger text. So I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to increase the font size just ever so slightly to something like 50. There we are, and once again I'm going to anchor this to the bottom left hand corner. Now the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want it to go floating around the screen, we want it to stay right underneath the progress bar. So now that bit's done, let's go ahead and put in the progress bar. So we've got our progress bar in here, we're going to scale it up a little bit, and now we actually need to change the percentage, not the percentage, but the styling of it. So we need to change the background image and the fill image. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the background image, which is going to be the empty one. So if I go ahead and grab that, so I'm going to get it in my content browser, which is somewhere. 2 seconds. There you are, flash underscore empty. I'm just going to select it, and then I'm going to press the little button here to chuck it in there, and I'm going to do the same thing for the full image for the fill image over here. And I'm going to scale this up a little bit as it does look a little bit distorted, and I'm also going to make sure that I set my margins down to 0 so it doesn't stretch the image at all. And if we go ahead and compile, save and press play, we should be able to see how our bar is starting to look now. So if I press play, if you're having this error here where it says can't play in editor when performing edit color stuff, all you got to do is just close the engine and open it up again. So we'll get back to that in a moment. But for now, let's actually go ahead and check out the functionality side of the appearance. When I adjust my percentage, you should be able to see it filling up just like this. And you can see there's some weird color problems here. So what I've actually got to do is I've got to make sure that I change the fill color and opacity to just a flat white, so there's no tint, it doesn't change the color, and it just uses the image instead. So you can see now it's filling up quite nicely, and when we actually create the simple binding for this, it should come out really nice. So let's quickly go ahead and set up the binding now, so the battery actually moves along with the variable. So to do that, I'm just going to go to progress, create a binding here, and I'm going to make sure that I actually name this one here. So I can see this is get percentage 2. I'm going to rename it to flash battery. And it's good practice to name all of the bindings that you create. You can say I haven't done it for the other two. We'll get back to that at some point. You should know which one's which, because you can see this one here is getting my player objective, this one is getting my stamina, and this one is getting my hunger. Just name it accordingly. Anyway, back to the flash battery, let's go ahead and set this up. Now, if you remember, we actually stored the battery stuff inside of the third person character. So we've got to do a cast to the third person character, and once again, we've got to use the get player character to hook up into the object wildcard. And now, as the third person character, we can actually get the player get the player battery. And now we've also got to do float divided by float over here, and because it's a value that goes from 0 to 1, and the way we've set up our variable, so it goes up from 0 to 100, we need to divide it by 100. So just go ahead and do it. Just do float divided by float, and make sure that the conversion from integer to float is down here and not the other way around. Otherwise it simply won't work. So I'm going to compile that, I'm going to save that, and hopefully our bar should all be working now. So you can see we've got our bar in the bottom left hand corner, and you should see that by default we've got about 50% battery. So if I press F, you can see it's now going up and down, and it's working perfectly. If I go ahead and turn it off, pick up one of these little objects, you can see it's gone up to full now, and that is brilliant. So I'm going to do one last thing here. I'm just going to quickly change the scale of the battery on the widget, because it does look a little bit too big. So I'm just going to scale that down, just like that, and I'm going to do the same for the text. 50 is a bit too big for me, I think. So I'm going to change this down to 45, nope, 40. Also, I don't think I actually anchored down my progress bar, so I've got to make sure I do that as well. So I'm going to anchor it to the bottom left hand corner, just like that. And yeah, okay, that's too big. So there we are, just going to leave it in the corner. Boom. So I'm going to compile, save, and let's see how this looks in the game now. So if I press play, it's looking quite nice and it still works. Anyway, that is pretty much everything for today's episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to smash that like button, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.